Hello everyone and welcome to my show, FitLife, Healthy Mind and Body. My name is Natalia Kotowska and I will be your host. This is UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. On this show, we will be talking about fitness, healthy living, nutrition, fitness fads and more. We will have guest speakers and what's most importantly, we will exercise together. Yes, you heard me right. In every episode, we will have a healthy dose of exercises that we will do together. So we won't just talk about fit life, we will actually experience the fit life together. Are you ready? Then let's go. In today's episode, we will talk about the relationship between mental and physical health. I have been in the sport and entertainment industry for over 15 years. And trust me, it can really heavily affect your perception of what is healthy body. You might think it must be easy for her. She's a model, dancer, personal trainer. For her to take care of her physical health is nothing difficult. Well, you couldn't be more mistaken. I have fought and still fight with myself over my physical health, which is so closely connected to my mental health. I speak very openly about how important it is to maintain a healthy body in order to keep healthy mind. My physical and mental health goes beyond how I look or trying to look like. Let me tell you, as a young girl, I had an image in my mind about how slim should I be. And honestly, I wasn't fat. Yes, I'm tall and naturally lean, but it was never enough. I never felt skinny enough, so I developed harmful eating habits, which to be very honest, I struggle to today. Dancing and sport helped me to overcome negative feeling towards my body and change my opinion of myself. As I built my physical strength, my mental strength grew too over time. Successfully, my relationship with my body has changed, but my relationship status with eating will say sometimes it's complicated. But I'm happy to be work in progress. I feel it helps me to be a better fitness coach for my clients. I know the journey can be very hard, but I never want anyone to do it alone. Today, we have with us Dr. Audrey Tang, chartered psychologist and author of The Leader's Guide to Resilience. She's the resident psychologist on The Chrissy B Show and the presenter and wellness advocate on Disruptive TV. She also broadcasts self-development podcast, Retain Your Brain, where she focuses on an effective, practical self-improvement tools for personal and professional success. Dr. Audrey, welcome to the show.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you, Audrey?
Good. I'm well, thank you. Yes, good. Mad year.
I know. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation on behalf of myself and UK Health Radio. Thank you very much. Super excited.
Absolute pleasure.
I think the subject of body and mental health and physical health is very important, especially these days, because you start to realize how physical activity or lack of physical activity can impact your mental health. That's why I strongly try to always focus on healthy body and healthy mind, because it both goes together. People think, oh, I look after my body, that might be superficial. Yes, true, that's one side of physical health and looking pretty. But the other side, for me personally, speaking from my experience, it was the escape from everything crazy that was happening up here in my head, So that's why I choose subject today that is the relationship between the health, mental health and physical health.
Perfect. No, I fully agree with you. I think one of the funniest thing is with depression in particular, that's where people just don't want to do anything. And in fact, getting them up and even walking around the block, it's harder to be depressed if you are active. It just is, because the mind doesn't quite allow for it. depression is exacerbated when we're sitting, we're hunched over, we're just not going anywhere, we just can't be bothered. And just simply being able to get out and do something makes a huge difference. So there is a huge relationship between the two, and I'm really happy you're covering it.
Oh, that's perfect. You know, if say, how do you see the relationship? What is the relationship from obviously a medical point of view between the mental and the physical health? Is there any relationship? Just to clarify that for some people who might not see that connection.
There is a huge relationship between mental health and physical health, partly because if we do not look after ourselves mentally, for example, that can have repercussions on our physical well-being. So if we're stressed and we are anxious and overwhelmed the whole time and we don't do anything about it, what actually happens is our body physically has to react. And physically, it puts us in a state called resistance. We stay in this state where our heart rate is up, we're having palpitations, we might be sweating, we're tense, partly because the body is preparing to run away. The body doesn't, even though the threat is not physical, the body and brain don't actually realize that, and it's responding in exactly the same way. So unfortunately, if we're having to keep up this resistance for a great deal of time, the body falls into exhaustion. Physically, it is no longer able to cope. Think about it very much like pushing your body so far is like stretching an elastic band. Sometimes it will spring back, but other times it will either just snap or the elasticity will be lost. And that's what happens to us. And the moment that the body breaks down, which it can do because of the mental strain we've placed on ourselves, which has physical effects, then unfortunately, even with the best will in the world, we're still in other people's hands in order to help us recover. Because things like stomach ulcers, things like heart attacks, that needs medical attention. We can't just simply will it to go away. And therefore, looking after our mental health will actually have positive repercussions on our physical health, but also looking after our physical health can actually have benefits for our mental health.
How to successfully lose a weight if you have an emotional and physiological attachment to food? And I speak from my experience, because people might think, oh, I'm slim, I look great. Or you said that girl with crazy abs, which I don't see, but I have that problem personally too with the food. I don't eat really necessarily when I feel hungry. I tend to overeat, and then I tend to punish myself for overeating. Even though I look healthy and slim, I do have that psychological and emotional attachment to food. How would you say how to successfully lose weight, or maybe learn how to look at the food from a different angle?
Absolutely. I think the first thing we must say, though, is if that attachment to food is getting to the point where it is damaging to one's body, then all the things I'm suggesting, they are not a substitute for getting professional support and professional help. However, some of these things you can perhaps think about in complement to any traditional therapy or treatment that you might be receiving. If we have an unhealthy relationship with food, or perhaps an attachment to food, or even an addiction to food, there can be a root of this somewhere perhaps in our childhood. Maybe in order to cope with a difficult event, we ate. Maybe the one time that was the most happy time within our families was around the dinner table. Perhaps we grew up in a situation where we were told you must finish everything in front of you. Or alternatively, perhaps food was the only area where you felt you had any form of control. Maybe the food was there, but if no one watched you eat it, you could do what you like with it. So there are many reasons why we form an attachment with food. And one of the most important things is actually getting to the root of your reason. Now, the reason I talk about our past and upbringing is not to blame people. I'm not saying, oh, it's my parents' fault that I'm fat or that I've got this unhealthy relationship, but simply there is not necessarily a gene in our makeup that says you will be created with an unhealthy attachment to food. It's learned. Our relationship to food, like our relationship to many things, is something we have learned over time. And it may not be a healthy one, but the good news is if it's learned, it can be unlearned. Unfortunately, it takes quite a lot of time to do that and a lot of effort. But the best way to start is definitely identify the root. And the way you get to the root is often by recognizing your trigger. So if you do feel yourself reaching for the unhealthy snack or choosing something unhealthy over something maybe a little bit more nutritious, catch yourself and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? What need is that actually trying to fulfill? And if you can identify what that is, maybe it's loneliness, maybe it's boredom, maybe it's feeling unloved, then see if you can find a substitute that you can use instead. So something like, okay, I'm feeling lonely, maybe I'll phone a friend. Or I'm feeling unloved. Well, what can I do that makes me feel good? Maybe it's listening to some music that I enjoy, or spending that couple of moments just reading a nice book, or just feeling the warmth of the sun, something that makes us feel nice. And if you have a list of these substitutions, the healthy things that you can do instead, it becomes a lot easier to recognize, oh, I'm reaching for an unhealthy snack, and I can actually choose from this whole list of other things something more healthy to do instead.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I have this problem, massive problem. I can eat very healthy, but when it comes to chocolate, this is my downfall. What is the emotional and physiological impact on losing weight? Is there any impact? So people like thinking, once I'm going to be slim, I'm going to be happy, or losing weight will make me to, stop hating my body or looking myself a certain way. Is there any impact? Would you see the connection?
There is a huge connection between achieving a goal of losing weight or becoming stronger or fitter and how we feel. But the one thing I would love your listeners to take away is that happiness is a state. It is not a goal. By achieving a goal, it can help contribute to our feelings of happiness, but we can choose to be happy. And actually, we need to choose to be happy even without having that achievement, because we need to recognize it comes from within. Otherwise, the little hit of dopamine that we get when we maintain it, and then we get into this horrible vicious cycle of perhaps losing the weight, feeling great, gaining the weight, feeling awful, and then every time that cycle goes around, it gets harder and harder. So one thing I would suggest to you is to focus perhaps on a goal of something a little bit more ongoing. So perhaps you focus on fighting for fitness rather than fighting fatness. So rather than thinking, I will lose 2 stone, instead set yourself the goal of, I will exercise for 30 minutes every single day. Or perhaps I will walk around the block every single day. Use whatever you need to do that suits your physicality and your well-being right now. One thing that I do notice, though, of course, is that the positive responses from other people can encourage us to continue with our weight loss or our fitness goals and achievements. And that can be very motivating. So a lot of the time, psychologists would advise, well, maybe make yourself accountable and post progress pictures. I would say, if that works for you, that's fine, do it. If it doesn't, and you're only answering to yourself, that's fine too. So don't worry greatly about shouting about it, what healthy feels like. And I savor that, and that makes the difference to me. It's not the compliments, it's not the only you look amazing, it's what I feel for you live in your body for however long you choose to do so, and with that, only you are going to need to judge it first. Only you are going to need to love it first. And those are the things to remember. We need to love ourselves first.
Right. So when it comes to training, there's many people, if they feel a little bit insecure with their bodies, feel that form of shame to stepping out of houses and go to the gym because they see all these fit people. How would you say how to pass that mental barrier when it comes to training and working out? How to start?
For anyone who is a little bit worried about going to the gym or joining a class, you don't actually need to do it straight away. You could go onto YouTube, look up all of the videos on there, try a few things out and see which one you like. By doing that, you actually begin to recognize the many different classes or things, fitness pursuits you could get into out there. But also you might begin to recognize the type of trainer the type of person who leads the class that you get on better with, and those will help you when to pay money for it. Another thing you can do is to go for trial periods. Lots of gyms, especially now when they're reopening, they will give you that opportunity to try some things. The thing to remember is it is much more about a reflection of themselves rather than really something personal to you. What can happen is if somebody is very unhappy with who they are, what they tend to do is lash out to other people, and that results in people being mean. And whilst it is hard not to take it personally, we do need to think that really says a lot more about them than it does about us. And also when it comes to a class or doing something in a group, chances are everyone is going to be so much more worried about whether they're able to keep up, whether they're able to do the steps, than judge you. So I would say go for it. Find out what you like and then just simply give it a go. And remember, we're all adults. If you don't like it, you can also leave.
I agree. Sometimes the timing might not be there for you yet, but as long as you keep approaching or keep trying or challenging yourself, even when one thought a day, that's already a progress. That's already a work. I see it this way. Even if you're, you might have that idea of, today I'm going to the gym, but you're actually weren't able to attend that class, but you already had that thought. You got yourself ready. Then try next day. Next day, maybe you're going to get out of the house already. The third day, you're going to open the door of the gym. And maybe one day, if you're going to keep trying, you might actually become, the VIP member. Who knows? So on that note,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's my thinking. I always try to feel I tried rather than how it could be if I try. At least I tried, I failed. Okay, also well, I failed. It's fine, So what would you say? When do we know that we actually are fit physically and mentally? When that all goal of, and now this is probably to people more like me, myself, who are already actually fit. When do we feel like, okay, enough is enough, or I don't need to be that obsessed, or I reach the healthy zone?
It's important to recognize whether you're very physically fit, whether you're very mentally fit, that physical and mental fitness for a lot of people seems to be defined as the absence of physical illness or mental illness, and that's actually not the case. In both cases, physical health and mental health could simply be defined as, I feel good right now. I feel good.
That's simple.
And if you're very fit and you've got that feeling, you're in the zone and you're thinking, yeah, I feel great, then it is okay to stop there, because actually I would suggest take a moment to enjoy that feeling. Savor that moment. I lifted that extra weight, or I ran that extra 5 minutes, or whatever it is you did. Because if you can recognize your achievements, if you can recognize your goals, no matter how big or how small they seem, what that allows us to do is live for the minute in the present, rather than actually jumping on that hedonistic treadmill and running for the next achievement and the one after that and the one after that, and not actually stopping to think, well, where have I got to? That just sets us on a hamster wheel, which is not very pleasant, and it's not great for our mental health. And therefore, if you have managed to go one better today than you did yesterday, I would always say stop for a minute and savor that moment. And that to me is the start of mental and physical wellness. It's not about saying, oh, well, it's not that I can't do that anymore, or it's not that I don't feel like running anymore. It's actually, no, I'm balanced, I'm good. And now that's my first step to feeling even better.
How can you push yourself mentally to go through the workout? There's many people that already start to think like, oh my God, overwhelmed with thinking, even the idea. I have so many clients, the idea of training, they already cannot eat, they're so stressed because the PT is coming. How to overcome that thought that it's not that heavy, doesn't have to be, and it's a beautiful process.
Yeah, first of all, if you are seeing a personal trainer, maybe talk to them. If they're anything like you, Natalia, you will be understanding, they will be helpful, they will be kind, and they are the expert. They will be able to voice your concern instead of, I must be doing the absolute 100% type of achievement in that particular field. And this comes to us, especially when perhaps we've started fitness again after having been a triathlon runner or having been a cross-country runner when we were young. We then start thinking, oh my goodness, I'm doing park run, or I must be as fast as I was before. No, that your expectations that are complete work to achieving something that you know is achievable, then push that little bit further. And actually, the more you do that and the more you build up on that, then before you even realize it, you are actually not only running what you used to run, but probably further and faster because you've got a different mindset with it now. The worst thing to do is to actually push yourself at a level where it's not comfortable for you, or worse, it actually causes physical harm. And so judge your level. This is where you have to be honest with yourself. This is where you have to sit there, like me, as I get older. I sit there and think, well, I'm not as flexible as I was, or I can't do as much without getting out of breath. But that's okay. Understanding that and not thinking, oh, I'm awful, or I'm terrible, I'm a failure because I haven't been able to do that. I've looked at myself and what my capabilities are in context, and that changes. That's the most amazing thing about life, is it changes. And so as you notice the change, that's why I say savor the little wins, savor when you went that little bit further than you did the day before. You will then be able to grow, but realistically, and get better realistically.
You know, when you're healthy and you just have that little bit of kilograms, I found it probably easier to direct someone. But what with people who are suffering more from anxiety, depression, any form of panic attacks, how to get fit when you actually really struggle on that note?
The strange thing is, when we're talking about panic and anxiety, first of all, one of the ways of actually managing a panic attack for some, which is very successful, is getting a bit of physical exercise, running on the spot, for example. The reason for this is the fear response and the physical exertion response is the same. Our heart rate's gone up, we're feeling a bit sweaty, we're feeling a bit warm. And if our mind actually starts associating that response, the heart rate going up, instead of with the feared object, but actually with physical exercise, our mind immediately calms down. So I would say one of the things to do, especially if you are panicking, is first of all, see if you can channel it into a physical energy. And that's the same thing with anxiety. With depression, one of the things to do is, in fact, go out, go for a walk around the block, smell the fresh air, breathe in, clear the lungs, feel the warmth of the sun. What that will do, that boost of vitamin D, it's first of all going to strengthen our immune system. And secondly, if you are out for a walk, if you are focusing on the birds, if you're focusing on the sun, if you're focusing on the smells of nature, it becomes harder to focus on the things that are bringing us down. So exercise just simply in itself, not necessarily doing a marathon, but the running on the spot or walking around the block, that can be a really good start to actually tackling anxiety, depression, and panic attacks. But another thing I would suggest is also perhaps have something to occupy your mind whilst you are doing the physical exercise. So rather than just thinking, I'm running and I have to run for 5 minutes, instead play a happy song or play a podcast. Or for me, I actually started running again by listening to positive affirmation meditations. And before I realized it, I was so concentrating on the meditations that after 20 minutes, I'd actually run a kilometer. And that was brilliant. And then I kept on doing it and I've got better and better. So by distracting my mind, it actually has allowed me to continue with the physical.
So on that note, how do you push through when you feel already tired? Okay, some people feel tired after 5 minutes, some people feel tired after 1 hour. How to push mentally through that tiredness?
Well, sometimes actually it is to stop because you don't want to injure yourself. So it might be a case of if you are feeling really maybe even ill, or perhaps an injury hasn't quite recovered yet. If you're feeling those twinges, stop and maybe seek some professional advice as to exercises you can do to strengthen and so on. Another thing you could do is perhaps change up your routine a little bit. It might well be that perhaps adding swimming into your routine is going to help with breath control, may help in terms of your cardiovascular, and that may suddenly make your running or your HIIT class or your fitness pursuits easier. One thing I noticed was I started a ballroom aerobics class and I started going to that before lockdown. I really enjoyed it. But then I did a little bit of core work because it focused on my posture. It focused on being able to sort of stand up straight. And that actually helped me do better in the Fit Steps class itself. So sometimes it might be finding alternatives for that particular exercise or for that particular run or whatever it is you're trying to do. And then come back to it at a later point, because sometimes it's the same thing mentally. If we're staring at a blank piece of paper saying, I must write, it's not going to happen. So sometimes we just need to say, no, let's stop.
Some people find a muscle pain or the soreness as they're in pain already and they have to stop. How to help them to understand that this is good, this is the right feeling, and it's okay. It will go after a while. What happened to me often working that industry is people try to work out. Once they feel that muscle pain, they're like, no, it's not for me. How to make them understand that it's good. It's going to go after a while. It's a journey. It's not one-time thing. You just have to get your muscles ready. So that mental barrier, we have to push through it. If we want to achieve goals, whichever they are, as you said, we have to try to push through that first stage of that, unpleasant new pain.
Yeah. I totally get what you're saying. One thing I recognize myself, and I'm not a fitness expert, I simply work out relatively regularly, is that muscle pain after exercise, in other words, using muscles that I haven't used for a long time, is very different to pain which will cause physical problems later. And recognizing that will actually help you. Another thing is exactly as you've explained, exactly as you've said, by telling people your muscles are going to hurt because they haven't been worked in this way for a while. They are going to ache. And actually, the second day is probably worse than the first day. By preparing yourself for that, you're more likely to think, oh, yeah, my personal trainer said that, I'm feeling it. This is normal. And actually feeling the pain becomes normalized. And that's a good thing. But another thing to remember, really, and this is an affirmation that I use for myself quite a lot, and this gets me through a lot of moments where I find it difficult, is that change is hard. Working out is hard. Doing something that's different to what we've had as a habit for a long time is hard. But nothing is harder than feeling stuck in a place you don't want to be. And that's what gets me through.
I think that's a perfect ending to my questions, and to sum up everything. Nothing is harder than to be stuck in one spot and feeling just strengthless, helpless, hopeless. So I do have a few fact or facts questions for you. Okay, just to answers and give an idea to our listeners what is actually a fact or what is a fact. Exercising boosts your happiness. Facts or facts?
That's a fact. Exercising does boost our happiness. It releases endorphins. It also gives us a sense of achievement, and it has other benefits whereby other people might start saying you look fit. We feel fit. We can do more things. We can get out more. It definitely has not only got benefits for boosting our happiness, but gives us opportunities to boost it even further.
There we go, people. So it's a fact. Endorphins, hormone of happiness. Exercise it more, and then more you're going to get it. Okay. Next one. Diet pills are necessary in the process of weight loss. Facts or facts?
No. That is a fad, and it is not a healthy one. Partly because actually it's a little bit like handing over our power and our control to something that we don't really even understand. So I personally wouldn't put my physical health into the hands of something that I didn't know was synthesized, didn't know was healthy for me, didn't know had other repercussions with it. So that's one thing. But secondly, we also don't know long-term effects of taking diet pills. We don't know whether our body will react differently compared to somebody else's. And we also don't know how much people have been paid to promote them, advertise them, or really the safety of them. But underlying it all, I would always say I would rather be in charge of my own physical health. And if I'm just going slowly with it, so be it, because I know I'm working and that is giving me the results I want.
So no fast fixes, nothing like that works, guys, for the longer run. All right, next one. Vibrating belts, power plates help to tone your body. Fact or fact?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Because I actually do quite like using the vibrating plates. And I actually find they work for me in terms of balance, and the vibrating plate may not actually do the job it needs to do. But if you're doing perhaps exercises on them, you are then training your body to work against the vibration, and that can actually help you become stronger. So that's one of the things where I say depends how you're using it.
50-50. Yeah, I would say so. I would say definitely if you only rely on vibrating belts and those equipments, that's absolutely not going to work. It's like placebo a little bit. If you believe it, okay, then you're going to see results. But if you put an extra work and maybe support that work with that, it won't harm you, but don't expect that it will work for you. All right, another one. We have two more. Very interesting one. Cleansing diet juices are very harmful. Fact or fact?
Oh, again, this depends on the individual. This depends on how you're using it. If you are only drinking cleansing juices and not getting nutrients that the body needs from other sources, they will be harmful. But if you're doing it to perhaps kickstart a diet and you don't have any other health requirements, then for many people, they've actually found it a great way to actually incorporate and kickstart their metabolism, kickstart their not diet, because I don't want to use that, but healthy choices for eating. I would also say that perhaps adding a cleansing drink or adding something which may have antioxidants in it can be a useful part of a diet. But again, don't rely on it for the weight loss or the fitness only, because that's only part of it. We know that diet and exercise needs to work together. And also, if we can get on board ourselves, we're taking that responsibility for ourselves and not giving that responsibility over to the vibrating belt, to the drink, and to the diet pill, then I think we're a lot healthier all round.
All right, and the last one. Toning shoes such as Skechers help you to tone your body, fat or fat.
Again, you know what? I only ever look at these things when I start panicking about feeling like I need to lose weight or feeling like I need to be fitter. And then I'm looking for them as a quick fix, as a way of actually getting out of not running or not making healthy choices with my eating. Again, if it helps us balance, if it helps you work out more comfortably, fine, use them. But again, they're not the only way to tone up. And in fact, if you're thinking, I'm just going to buy a pair of shoes and I'm suddenly all my problems are going to be over, you've really got to rethink perhaps that point of view. So if you like them, they look great and you feel good in them, then lovely. Use them as part of feeling good when you work out. But otherwise, again, don't just rely on those alone to make you fit.
So I would say more of a fad, just because unfortunately they won't work for you. Just putting them on, it's not like magical shoes. All of a sudden you're 5 kilos less and you have abs and a great booty. So guys, don't get confused. Use them if you want, if you like their look, which I don't, but if you like the look, think about the fashion more rather than, oh, they're gonna bring that I'm gonna have in a month time great rounded booty. All right, well, we just finished on that funny note. Hopefully, guys, that was helpful for you. Thank you so much for taking your time and answering all those I think very important, crucial questions about mental and physical health. And yeah, I hope we all learn something from that, and we all gonna take something. I will take something for myself, for my own training and eating, try to apply it. I think everything is a learning in life. And as long as we are not giving up, it's already a progress. So thank you so much for taking your time. If there's anything you want to mention that you feel we haven't covered, please feel free to do so.
Thank you for having me. And I think this is an incredibly important topic. The reason why I look at posture, in fact, and mental health, which comes under exercise, is because one of the things that a lot of coaches recognize is if we're not looking after ourselves, if we have let our posture drop, if we've let our personal grooming drop, we as coaches begin to recognize perhaps there's something a little bit more deeply rooted. So perhaps it's something that your listeners could do themselves as well, is just recognize when they're feeling great, like we talked about earlier, but also recognize if things have started to slip. Because if you can catch something whilst it's just a slip, you can prevent it from becoming something more serious later on.
And on that note, thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed that beautiful interview, and I hope we're all going to take something from that home. I wish you all the best. Please stay healthy and safe, and I really hope we're going to see each other soon. Thank you, Aubrey. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me to do this.
Anytime. It's all about give and take and sharing the passion, knowledge, and helping each other. That's all I believe.
Yes.
And again,
Brilliant.
Thank you. Take care, and we're in touch.
Take care. Have a good one.
Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Make sure you visit my website, www.nataliakotowska.com. Follow me on Instagram, Fitness with NK. Thank you, and I will see you next time.